when my daughter-in-law's mom looked me dead in the eye at Thanksgiving dinner and called me the maid right in front of my grandkids, I didn't flinch, I just smiled. By Christmas, I had already pulled a string that would shake her. Whole family to the core, justice had to be served. You won't believe what happened next, so stick around and hit subscribe if you've ever dreamed of a perfect revenge. I live in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, in a modest 2-story house with peeling white paint and a front porch swing that's been squeaky since the Clinton administration. I'm Mark Caldwell, 58 years old, widower, retired Ake Tech. I worked 35 years crawling through attics and basements, fixing furnaces in sub-zero Iowa winters, and building a life with my late wife. Linda passed away 3 years ago from breast cancer. It gutted me, but I kept going mowing the lawn every Saturday, paying off the mortgage, making small talk with neighbors about the Iowa Hawkeyes, pretending I was fine. My son, Jason, and his wife, Brittany, live 20 minutes away in a newer subdivision with a strict HOA, you know, the type plastic pumpkins in October, synchronized Christmas lights in December, and letters in your mailbox if your trash can sit out an extra day. Jason's a finance guy at some downtown firm, always in a slim-fit suit, talking about quarterly earnings like the rest of us care. Brittany, how do I say this politely? She's the kind of person who thinks buying a new Louis Vuitton bag on Black Friday is a personality trait. Now, I love my grandkids, Ethan, who's 10 and obsessed with Fortnite, and Chloe, who just turned 7 and still believes in Santa. I babysit when they need me, I slip cash into their piggy banks, and I show up at every soccer game and dance recital. That's the only reason I ever put up with Brittany's sharp tongue and Jason's growing distance. Here's the thing. When Linda was alive, the kids came around all the time. Holidays were at our place. Sunday dinners were non-negotiable. And there was laughter in the house. After she passed, it was like the glue holding us all together melted away. Suddenly, Jason was too busy, Brittany was too tired, and I got shuffled into the role of unpaid babysitter rather than respected father. I never complained. I told myself, they're young, raising kids, building careers. Don't take it personally, but deep down, I noticed the change. The lack of eye contact. The way Brittany rolled her eyes when I asked for help moving a broken washer into the garage. The way Jason pretended not to hear when I mentioned I'd skipped a doctor's appointment because the copay was too high, and then came Thanksgiving. My first clue that something ugly was brewing. I brought over my famous green bean casserole, the one Linda used to make, and set it on their granite countertop. Brittany wrinkled her nose and whispered, "That dish looks like hospital food." Jason didn't even defend me. He just popped open a craft beer and changed the subject. Later, while I was wiping down the table, because apparently the maid part of the night was my job, Brittany leaned in and said it. "You know, Mark, you're kind of like our Levin. Help, free babysitter, handyman, cleaner. It works out great for us," she laughed. Jason chuckled along. I didn't say a word. But in that moment, something shifted inside me. They thought I was weak. They thought I'd take anything because I was lonely. But what they didn't know, what they never bothered to ask, was that I wasn't some broke, pitiful widower. I had resources. I had connections. And I had nothing left to lose, and sooner. Then they realized that disrespectful little Thanksgiving jab was going to cost them more than they could ever imagine. Thanksgiving should have been the warning shot, but Christmas? That was the full-on ambush. Jason and Brittany invited me over for a family Christmas morning. I showed up in my old wool sweater, the one Linda knitted me before she got too sick. I carried 2 big bags, one stuffed with gifts for Ethan and Chloe, the other with gingerbread cookies Linda's recipe had made famous on our block. The second I walked in, I felt it. That tight, fake holiday smile plastered on Brittany's face, Jason hovering like he'd rather be anywhere else. The kids barely looked up from their iPads. I handed Ethan a box and old-school Lego set, the kind I saved up to buy for Jason. When he was a boy, he tore off the paper, glanced at it, and said, "Cool," before tossing it aside for his Nintendo Switch. Chloe unwrapped a Barbie dream house. Her eyes lit up for half a second. Until Brittany sighed, "We already got her the newer one." Strike one. Then came brunch. Brittany's mom, Carol was there. Carol, with her diamond-encrusted cross necklace and permanent scowl, the kind of woman who treats Target employees like her personal staff. She perched at the head of the table like she owned the place. "Mark," she said, swirling her mimosa, "you ever think about selling that old house of yours? Cedar Rapids property values are climbing. You could move into a retirement community, might be easier for everyone." Everyone. Translation: easier for Jason and Brittany, who wouldn't have to feel guilty about me living alone in the family home Linda and I built. I forced a polite smile. "I'm fine where I am," Carol smirked. "Well, don't get too comfortable. Life has a way of forcing change on people." Strike two. Then came the kicker. After brunch, while Jason and Brittany disappeared upstairs to organize gifts, Carol cornered me in the kitchen. She lowered her voice but not her tone. "You know, Mark, you really should stop relying on Jason. He's got his own family now. You showing up with casseroles and hand-me-down gifts isn't helping anyone. Honestly, you're a burden." A burden. That word stung worse than any icy Iowa wind. When Jason came back down, he didn't defend me. He didn't even look at me. Instead, he said, "Dad, maybe Carol's right. Maybe you should start planning differently. Downsizing, taking care of yourself. You can't expect us to be there all the time." My own son. Echoing the woman who despised me. Strike three. But the final blow didn't come until later that week. I'd taken Ethan and Chloe to the mall because Brittany texted she needed space to breathe. I bought them pretzels, let them ride the carousel, even splurged on a Build-A-Bear for Chloe. When I dropped them off, Ethan ran inside without a thank you. Chloe hugged my leg, but Brittany yanked her away. "Don't get them used to all this, Mark. You can't afford it. And when you're gone, Jason and I don't want to deal with your financial mess." My financial mess? They thought I was broke? They thought I was clinging to them because I had number 401k, no savings, no future. What they didn't know: 35 years in Vega pays steady. Linda and I lived frugally, no fancy cars, no Caribbean vacations. We maxed out retirement accounts, bought our house in cash 15 years ago, and invested every tax refund into index funds Jason never bothered to ask about. I wasn't just getting by. I was sitting on close to $1.4 million, not counting the house, and I had all the paperwork to prove it. So when Brittany sneered, "It's your problem, Mark, not ours. Don't dump your old man issues on Jason," I felt something inside me lock into place. This wasn't just disrespect anymore. This was war. And if they wanted to talk about burdens, they were about to learn what happens when you treat family like disposable help. The first crack in their perfect little narrative didn't come from me blowing up. It came from something small, almost accidental. A week after Christmas, Jason called. Not to check on me, of course. He wanted to know if I could help with Chloe's daycare bill, because money was tight after the holidays. I bit my tongue. The man drives a brand new F-150 with heated leather seats. Brittany gets her nails done every other week, and they've got a Peloton sitting unused in the garage. Tight, right? But instead of arguing, I said, "Sure, Jason, why don't you send me the invoice? I'll take care of it." There was a pause on the line, like he wasn't expecting me to say yes. That Friday, I walked into the daycare with a check. Not a partial payment, not just the overdue balance. I covered 3 full months in advance. The receptionist looked at me like I was Santa Claus. "Mr. Hayes," she said, "we don't usually get grandparents paying in bulk like this." Jason showed up at my door that night. He tried to play it cool, but his eyes were darting. "Dad, where'd you get the money?" I leaned back in my recliner, keeping my voice even. "I've been around a long time, son. Learned how to save. Don't worry about it." Brittany, though she wasn't buying the modest act. A couple days later, I caught her rifling through my mail when she dropped Chloe off. She played it off, said she was looking for a missing Amazon package. But I saw her eyes linger on the Vanguard envelope sitting on the counter. That was breadcrumb number 1. Breadcrumb. Number 2 happened at Ethan's middle school basketball game. Jason was too busy with work to go, so I showed up alone. The Booster Club president recognized me immediately. "Mark Hayes, the vague guy, you're kind of a legend around here." Didn't you fund the new AC system for the gym a few years back? A couple parents turned their heads. Suddenly, I wasn't the old burden in their eyes. I was the guy who quietly wrote a $40,000 check to keep kids from sweating through practice in July, and Brittany heard it. She was sitting 2 rows behind, pretending not to listen, but I caught the twitch of her jaw. The final breadcrumb dropped at my neighbor's Super Bowl party. I'd brought over my famous smoked ribs, figuring I'd just blend into the background. But halfway through the night, someone asked me how retirement was treating me. Before I could answer, Linda's old friend Nancy piped up, "Retirement? Mark could retire 5 times over. Didn't you sell that rental property on Maple last summer? I heard you cleared 6 figures." The room went quiet for a beat. Jason and Brittany exchanged a look, half shock, half calculation, and that's when it hit me. They'd spent months, maybe years, convincing themselves I was helpless, needy, and easy to brush aside. But these little slip-ups, they were showing cracks in their story. They were starting to realize I wasn't the broke, lonely widower they thought I was. What they didn't know was that I'd already started talking to a lawyer. Not because I wanted to cut them off, not yet, but because I wanted every move airtight when the time came, and it would come, because if there's one thing 35 years in Lycout taught me, it's this. Pressure builds quietly until one day it blows the whole damn system wide open. The truth didn't come out in some big dramatic speech. It slipped slowly, like sunlight breaking through a set of blinds. It started when Ethan's school sent home a letter about their capital campaign raising funds to expand the library and upgrade the computer lab. Jason tossed it on my kitchen counter one night, rolling his eyes. They want families to donate. Total scam. No way, I'm giving them a dime. I picked up the letter, ran my finger over the embossed school crest, and said quietly, "I'll take care of it." Jason laughed. "Dad, it's like $100,000 project." "You don't have that kind of money." That was breadcrumb number 3 turning into a spotlight. See, Jason never knew what my life had really looked like before Linda got sick. He knew I'd worked vac, sure. But he didn't know about the contract's multi-million-dollar municipal projects I'd won in the 90s when nobody else could figure out how to retrofit old city buildings. He didn't know about the 4 rental homes I'd bought for pennies on the dollar during the 2008 crash. He didn't know I'd maxed out my 401k every single year since 1982, back when people thought retirement accounts were a scam. And he sure as hell didn't know that when Linda passed, I rolled her pension into a trust for the grandkids, something I never bragged about. Never flaunted, because money doesn't erase grief. I'd chosen silence, because after losing the love of my life, none of that felt worth talking about. But now, with my own son looking at me like I was some dried-up ATM, I felt the urge to let the record show. The next week, I walked into the school board meeting and quietly wrote a check. Not for $100, not for $1,000. I covered the entire project. 6 figures, clean. When the superintendent shook my hand in front of the whole room and said, "Mark Hayes just ensured every kid in this district will have the resources they deserve." Jason's jaw nearly hit the gym floor. That night, Brittany called me. Her voice was sweet, syrupy, fake. "Mark, we had no idea you were doing so well. If you ever need help managing your portfolio, my cousin's a financial advisor." I cut her off. "Brittany, I've been managing my portfolio longer than your cousin's been alive. Don't worry about me." She went quiet. For the first time, I heard the edge of fear in her silence, but the real reveal came when the lawyer I'd been consulting, Mr. Gardner, called me in for a meeting about estate planning. Jason and Brittany assumed everything I had would naturally pass to Jason when I was gone. They were banking on it, probably already counting the dollars. Instead, Gardner and I drafted something else entirely, a living trust. One that bypassed Jason completely and set up my grandkids with college funds, down payment assistance for their first homes, and even stipends for trade school if they didn't want to go the university route. Every penny structured legally. Airtight, untouchable. Jason wasn't the heir. The kids were, and I wasn't just a frail old man scraping by. I was a man sitting on nearly $3 million in assets, debt-free, mortgage-free, with health insurance paid in full until the day I die. I'd let them think I was small, because being underestimated has its uses. But now? Now the mask was slipping, and I'll admit, a part of me enjoyed watching the shift in their eyes. From smug superiority to uneasy calculation, what they didn't know yet was that I wasn't just going to cut them out, I was going to take them. To court? Because neglecting your own father when he's battling cancer? Saying, it's your problem, and turning your back? In the eyes of the law, that's not just cruel. That's grounds for a fight. And trust me, I had plenty of fight left in me. I'd spent my whole life fixing other people's problems. Faulty air conditioners in July, busted furnaces in January, even city buildings that were one bad wire away from burning down. But this was different. This was me fixing myself fixing. The disrespect that had festered for years, when the day came, I didn't storm into Jason's house shouting or waving paperwork. I invited him and Brittany to meet me at Gardner's law office. I told them it was about financial planning. They showed up dressed sharp, Brittany in one of those overpriced blazers, Jason in a button-down that still had the fold creases in it. I could tell they were expecting good news. Gardner started slow, professional. Mark wanted to clarify some changes to his estate planning. Given his medical diagnosis, it's important everything is documented. Jason's face lit up like a kid unwrapping Christmas morning. He leaned forward, pen already in hand, like he was ready to sign something. Then Gardner slid the folder across the desk. As of last week, Mr. Hayes' living trust has been executed. His assets, real estate, cash, investments are secured for the sole benefit of his grandchildren. Silence. Brittany blinked first. I'm sorry, the grandchildren? Gardner didn't flinch. Yes, college funds, housing assistance, stipends, everything bypasses Jason directly. It's perfectly legal and airtight. Mr. Hayes has also executed a healthcare proxy and durable power of attorney, neither of which include Jason. Jason's pen dropped. Wait, you're cutting me out? After everything I've done for you? I finally spoke. Calm, steady. Everything you've done for me? Jason, the last time you drove me to a doctor's appointment was never... When your mom passed, I handled everything alone while you were too busy booking a trip to Cancun. You didn't even ask if I had food in the fridge? And when I told you I had cancer, you said, that's your problem. The blood drained from his face. Brittany jumped in, defensive. Mark, you can't just disinherit your own son. That's cruel. That's cruel? I cut her off. Cruel is telling your father he's on his own when he's fighting for his life. Cruel is waiting for me to die so you can raid what I've built. You don't get to cry about fairness now. Jason slammed his hand on the desk. I'll contest this. You can't just shut me out. Gardner folded his hands, calm as ever. Actually, you'll find it very difficult. We've documented Mr. Hayes' mental capacity with medical evaluations. The trust is irrevocable. And if you try to contest, all litigation costs will be deducted from your potential inheritance currently valued at zero. I almost laughed at the way Brittany's face twisted, like someone had yanked the rug out from under her designer heels, but I wasn't done. I pulled out another paper. Oh, and Jason, about the house you've been squatting in mine, not yours. I filed the eviction notice last week. 30 days. The sheriff will deliver it to you personally. That one hit like a sucker punch. He stood up, trembling with rage. You're destroying this family. I looked him dead in the eye. No, you did that the day you decided your mom's death and my cancer were just my problem. The air in that office was electric, like a storm had finally broken after years of suffocating humidity. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one shrinking back, apologizing, making excuses. I was standing tall. Jason and Brittany stormed out, slamming the glass door so hard the secretary flinched. Gardner turned to me and asked softly, "You all right, Mark?" I took a deep breath, and for the first time in months, my chest felt clear. More than all right, I'm done being their doormat. Because this wasn't just about wills or money. This was about drawing a line in the sand. About saying, you don't get to spit on me and then profit from my silence. And for the first time since Linda passed, I could feel her hand on my shoulder, almost like she was whispering, it's about damn time. A month later, I stood at my front porch, coffee steaming in my hand, watching a moving truck rumble away from the house across town. Jason and Brittany's house. Correction, my house? The eviction had gone through without a hitch. Sheriffs. Deputies had shown up, boxes stacked on the curb, and for once, Jason wasn't the one holding the power. He shouted, threatened, tried to guilt me, but the law didn't care about his tantrums. 30 days meant 30 days. They were out. And me? I wasn't just standing there alone. My neighbor, Mrs. Kennedy, waved from her yard. My buddy from the VA, Ron, stopped by with donuts. Even the mailman gave me a nod. For months, maybe years, I thought I was invisible, just an old man nobody cared about. But it turned out people noticed. People respected me more once I finally respected myself enough to set boundaries. The best part came 2 weeks later, at Thanksgiving. My daughter, Michelle, flew in from Seattle with her husband and the kids. I hadn't seen my grandkids in over a year because Jason always made a scene when they tried to visit, but this time the table was full. The turkey was golden, mashed potatoes piled high, and laughter filled the house again. At one point, little Ellie, my granddaughter, climbed into my lap with a crayon drawing. It was me, holding her hand with a big smile. Across the top she'd written in shaky 6-year-old letters, "Grandpa saves the day." That drawing went straight on my fridge. Meanwhile, Jason? Word around town was he tried contesting the trust. Gardner shut him down in one meeting flat. Brittany left him not long after, apparently being broke and entitled wasn't as sexy without my money attached. Last I heard, Jason was renting a 1-bedroom walk-up downtown, working part-time at an auto parts store. Karma's funny like that. And me, I started chemo. Yeah, but I also started living again. I joined a support group at the community center. I went fishing with Ron. I even refinanced my mortgage so I could remodel the kitchen Linda always dreamed of. For once, the future didn't feel like a ticking clock, it felt like mine to shape. However long I had left, the real victory wasn't the money, wasn't the eviction, wasn't even the airtight trust documents that made Jason grind his teeth at night. The victory was me reclaiming my dignity. My voice, because here's the truth no one tells you. Sometimes family isn't about blood. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you end up being the ones who cut you the deepest. And when that happens, you have 2 choices. Let them. Or draw the line. I chose to draw the line. So when Jason tried to shame me, saying I'd destroyed this family, I realized something powerful. There was no family to destroy. Not the way he defined it. Family, to me, is my daughter calling. Every week, my grandkids drawing pictures. My friends showing up at chemo with bad jokes and hot coffee. That's family. The rest. Just noise. As I cleared the plates at Thanksgiving night, Michelle squeezed my hand. Dad, I'm proud of you. Mom would be too, and I believed her. For the first time in years, I believed it. Jason thought it was my problem. But I turned it into my solution, my justice, my revenge, and let me tell you, nothing tastes sweeter than carving a turkey at your own table, surrounded by people who actually give a damn, knowing the vultures are finally locked out for good. You know, when people hear stories like mine, the first reaction is usually shock. How could your own kids treat you like that? But here's the truth, blood doesn't automatically mean loyalty. It doesn't guarantee respect. And it sure as hell doesn't excuse cruelty. What I learned the hard way is this. You teach people how to treat you. If you accept being walked on, if you let entitlement go unchecked, people will push until there's nothing left of you. And I had let that happen for too long. I told myself, it's family, I have to endure it, but enduring isn't the same as loving. Enduring is just surviving. And surviving isn't living. In America, we talk a lot about independence, financial independence, emotional independence, even the idea of standing on your own 2 feet. But that independence doesn't stop when you retire, or when you get sick, or when your kids are grown. You still have the right to protect what's yours, your house, your money, your time, your dignity. If you don't, someone else will claim it. And they won't feel guilty. The courts, the paperwork, the restraining orders, they weren't just about money. They were about drawing a line in the sand, saying, this is mine. This is who I am. And you don't get to erase that just because You share my last name, and maybe that's the hardest pill to swallow, realizing that family is a privilege, not a free pass. Real family shows up when you're weak, not just when you're signing checks. Real family sits with you through chemo, brings you soup, laughs with you at Thanksgiving, and remembers your worth when you forget it yourself. So here's my advice. From one bruised soul to another, don't wait for someone else to validate your existence. Don't wait for a holiday to remind you you're loved. Don't wait for your own kids to wake up and realize they took you for granted. Protect yourself. Honor yourself. And if the people around you won't, then they don't deserve a seat at your table, because at the end of the day, respect isn't inherited, it's earned. And as for me, well, Jason said, it's your problem. He was right, it was my problem. And I solved it. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply living well, while the ungrateful choke on their own bitterness. Velvet Kiss Revenge.